Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Pastor E.C. Maltbia, and I want to take this opportunity to invite or to welcome each and every one of you to the True Holiness Saints Center. We are so glad that you are here with us for our annual political forum. We certainly want to thank our sponsors tonight, our co-sponsors, the Log Cabin Democrat, and also to Conway Corporation. I want you to know that Conway Corporation arrived on our campus this morning at 10 a.m. to make sure that all of these candidates sounded and looked good on camera. Let's give Conway Corporation a hand. From Brett Carroll to Crystal Kemp to Jeff Matthews in the back, we want to say thank you. Tonight will be live streamed on their YouTube site, and throughout the month of February it will be repeated on Channel 5. On tomorrow it will also be on the True Holiness Saints Center Facebook page, so encourage others to go out and check it out. When we get finished today, all of our candidates were asked to bring you goodies, and so once you hear this information you can go hear what they're going to say, and more importantly see what goodies they have on the table. If this was Sunday morning at True Holiness, I would tell you to look to your neighbor to your right or your left, and I want you to do that. And I want you to repeat these words after me. Tell them, say, neighbor, the preacher said, this is a safe space. All of our candidates tonight have been personally invited here by me. So I want them to be treated with kindness and respect and the utmost of what Conway is, the best of Conway, loving one another. So you will hear some people tonight that you will absolutely agree with. And I want to encourage you, when you hear those, to show your agreement with your claps if you would like. And certainly you might hear somebody that you absolutely disagree with. And I want you to disagree with them respectfully. And this is how we're going to do it. If you hear something you don't like, silence is your response. So once again, thank you for being here. I often tell people, when it comes to political season, you choose the person, the party, or the platform that best represents your personal values and convictions. And tonight we will examine those. At this time, our host, our moderator for tonight is coming, Mr. David Keefe. Let's warmly welcome him.
Thank you, Reverend Maltbia, and I'll ask our judicial candidates to go ahead and come forward. I'm going to go over a couple of the ground rules. You know, that old question, what is your favorite season in the year? My response to that is political. These are the fun times for me, and I do appreciate everyone being here, Reverend Maltbia, for hosting this, and the church, for Conway Corporation's involvement as well. We're going to start with the candidates for District Judge. This is Division 2 here in Faulkner County, also covers Van Buren County. I'm going to go over quickly the format that we're going to have. It's going to be different in this race because we have 4 candidates as opposed to two in our other races. It'll begin with each candidate making a 90-second opening statement. That'll be followed by our question and answer segment. And each question that is asked will be asked of all candidates, and each candidate will have 90 seconds to respond to each question. The order in which candidates answer a question will rotate between questions, and it's not going to be in order, so pay attention. I'm going to call your name, and you're not next to the person who just answered in that regard. And the order of the opening and closing statements was determined with a random draw before we started this evening. And when we, first of all, I will take the role of introducing the candidates. We have from my left, your right, David Hogue, Lori Mason Jordan, Phil Murphy, and Landon Sanders. And from the first lot to be drawn was by Mrs. Jordan, and she has 90 seconds for her opening statement.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lori Mason Jordan. I am the proud wife of Antonio Jordan. He is not here tonight. He's working. Some of you may know him from his food truck, AJ's Ragin' Cajun. We have 2 children, Mason Jordan, who's 8, Liam Jordan, who's 5. He'll be 6 next week. I'm born and raised here in Conway. I graduated from Conway High School in 2000. I've been practicing law for 15 years now. Unbiased decisions, accountable actions. I feel like that is the role of a judge. When you go into a courtroom, you deserve to walk in there knowing that that judge is going to be unbiased. It doesn't matter who you are, what race you are, or who your family is. At the end of the day, you deserve to be treated fairly. I've had the special privilege of sitting as special judge for district court while Judge David Reynolds was on the bench before he retired. And so I know the challenges that I'm going to be up against, but you know what? I can handle it. So I'm asking for your support. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Landon Sanders is second for the introduction.
I'm Landon Sanders, and I, too, am running for 2nd Division District Court Judge. I'm running for District Court Judge because I have the experience in District Court that matters. I've served as prosecuting attorney in District Court, defense counsel, and a special judge in our District Court. And over the past 4 years, I've had the opportunity to work with our DWI court in reducing the recidivism of our habitual DWI offenders and keeping our streets safe. And I have a 5-year-old at home, and I want to keep our community safe. I'm sorry, I lost my spot. I have a 5-year-old at home, and I want to keep our community safe. I've been a part of the things that we can do in our district court to achieve that. And so we can take our first offense misdemeanor offenders and keep them from becoming felony offenders or habitual offenders. And that's important to me because this is my home. It's where I grew up, from Ida Burns Elementary School to high school and college at UCA. It's where I met my wife. It's where my wife teaches. And it's where we're going to raise our son. So I'm proud to be a part of this community, and I ask for your vote on March the 5th. I'm Landon Sanders. Thank you.
Phil Murphy.
My name is Phil Murphy, and I have spent my professional career solving problems. And right now we have a few problems in district court, but one of the big problems is that district court is not user-friendly. If you want to go online and you want to find your case and you want to see when and where your court date is, it is difficult. If you want to pick up the phone and you want to call and speak with someone, it is difficult to talk with someone in person. If you want to go to the courthouse and you want to have a conversation, it is difficult because we have limited hours. All of those are problems that I can solve. I have the ability and the experience. For 21 years, I've litigated cases in federal and state court, both at the trial level and the appellate level. In addition to litigating cases for the last several years, I've served as the Faulkner County Attorney. And in that role, I have developed relationships with people that will help solve these problems. People like County Judge Dodson, people like our Justices of the Peace, all 13 of them here in Faulkner County, I have great relationships with. All the mayors in Faulkner County I work with on a day-to-day basis, and most of them support my campaign because they understand that together we can make a difference. I've been married for 25 years to the lovely Dr. Jamie Murphy. We have 3 children. They are all adults and have left the house. But if you want someone to just listen to your problems, that's not me. If you want someone that's going to complain about problems, that's not me either. But if you're willing to have someone to solve the problems in district court, then vote for Phil Murphy. Thank you.
David Hogue.
Thank you. My name is David Hogue. I'm running for the same division and the same seat that all 3 of my opponents are. And I've been practicing law 28 years. Most of that time has been right here in Conway, right here in Arkansas. A little bit of it was in Mississippi before I moved here back to my roots. My family is from the Mount Vernon and Conway area since before statehood, and so I moved here to get to know my family and to reacquaint with all the people that raised me. I bring 28 years of law practice to the table, and more importantly and more relevantly, I bring some experience under Jack Roberts as a special district judge. I bring some experience under, in trial court and doing parental foster care cases and parental terminations and things like that. And then there was one occasion where Asa Hutchinson saw fit to appoint me to the Supreme Court. This is the kind of experience I bring. I've been a defense attorney, I've been a prosecutor, like some of the other people up here, and that's what it takes, is some experience so that I'm not going to look at anybody when I do this, but it takes some nerve sometimes to look at somebody and find them guilty and send them to jail, which is necessary. Sometimes it takes also nerve to look at law enforcement and say, you didn't prove your case. That's necessary. Both sides are necessary. I have the nerve to do that. I have the ability to do that. I have the skill to do that, and I want your vote for district judge.
Okay, the first question we have, Mr. Murphy, begins with you, and then from then we will rotate among the other candidates. And this one kind of gets into something that you touched on a little bit. The district court does have an online case review system where people with some traffic tickets can go through an online system without having to go to court. Do you believe this system is beneficial to the public in court? Could it be improved and expanded? And in what ways generally could online technology be used to improve our district court system?
Well, first, as I mentioned earlier, the online presence we have is simply insufficient. It doesn't match what you're going to find at any retail supermarket or anything else online. It is simply deficient, and we've got to work on that. There's no reason that district court should not meet the same level that any other retail outlet or any other presence online would have. Now, as far as improving it, that's going to take a joint function, not just something that district court does on its own, but rather that it works with all the cities to do. It's not an independent institution. It also has to work with the Supreme Court because there has to be funding for these sources. And to get those funding, you have to have the relationships to go to the legislators, to go to the justices, to go to the town councils and get that funding. And that's something that I can bring to the table. As a county attorney, I've spent a lot of time working on funding a number of different projects throughout the county. Not only have we funded infrastructure projects, we've funded things within the court system, just like the online system, in order to provide better services for our residents. So that's something that I think we can improve, it can be simplified, and it's something that I think that I bring a unique experience and skill set in order to make that happen. Thank you.
Mr. Sanders, you have next on this question.
All right. Well, currently we're using eFlex for e-filing in district court, and I use that almost daily. And we've had that for about the past year. Before that, we didn't have e-filing in district court, and we would have to fax things in when we're wanting to file something or bring it to the courthouse. And I like e-filing, but it takes away some of the personal nature of meeting the people in the courthouse and getting to know the staff and the clerk's office and knowing people on a first-name basis. But I'm adjusting to it, and I'm using it, and I like it. However, if we're talking about using any other sort of online software for people to attend court online, that's fine. We've been using Zoom in courts, and that works great. However, some of the cases that we're going to be adjudicating are jailable offenses. And in district court, sometimes we call those must-appear offenses, where they have to come before the judge. Because if they're behind a computer screen, they can't be found guilty and carry out that sentence. So there can be problems with that if we're going to be using that for every case. But I'm all for using technology. If we can use Zoom for certain cases or civil or small claims actions, I think that's appropriate. And I'm also good with using the eFlex system, but I still like going to the courthouse and getting to meet the people. So thank you.
All right. Mr. Hogue, you have the same question. You have 90 seconds to respond.
I think technology is vital, especially in 2024. Almost said 23 there. Technology is vital, but what's more vital than that is the relationships that Mr. Murphy just mentioned. To get the technology, you have to get the funding. To get the funding, you have to have the relationships. I, too, was county attorney. I was the county attorney for 6 years before Philip came along, or Mr. Murphy came along. Sorry, Mr. Murphy. And likewise, I developed some relationships with legislators, with senators, with people in Little Rock, so that I can go to them and say, we need this, we need that, and we need some help with funding to make Faulkner County and Van Buren County Court a little bit more effective. We can't lose focus of the judge seeing the individual face-to-face in a courtroom, though. Zoom is fine, but I need to be able to look at Mr. McGee when I talk to him. And Mr. McGee needs to see me. There's something in the power of the courtroom itself, and I don't want technology to lose the authority and the power of the courtroom itself. So I think that we should work on that, on technology, but not lose power of the person.
Ms. Jordan, you have 90 seconds as well.
Thank
Same
you.
question.
Thank you. So our former governor saw that our system was an issue, and he appointed me to the Criminal Justice Task Force for offender collection and fees, because the problem was that individuals were owed fines and fees, or individuals' restitution. The victims were owed restitution. And so once a person was found convicted, they would go do their time. Well, they may have another case in another county and be released off early. Well, then at the end of the day, he's thinking, okay, well, I've paid my fines and fees in Faulkner County, so I should be good to go. And then one day he receives a letter that, oh, he owes $2,000 for Van Buren County. So it is an issue, and in fact, there was funding available because I was on the task force. Now, they are supposed, the AOC, Administrative Office of the Courts, are working to create a system so that, for instance, that defendant, his counsel, the judge, the clerks can all go to one system and look and see what is owed and doing for this one particular individual, to eliminate this discrepancy of, do I still owe for Faulkner? Do I have a fine in White County? There'll be more consistency across the table. Now, in regards to the in-person, I'm all for it because I can determine someone's credibility in person, as opposed to seeing them on a screen. I need to know whether or not you're lying to me or not. So, and I can do that if I'm looking at you like I do my babies every day. So, that's my answer. Thank you.
The next question, Mr. Hogue, we will begin with you. How much of a role should an individual's personal beliefs, philosophy, and life experiences play in serving as a judge?
The more diverse they are, the more it should play. The less diverse they are, the less it should play. For example, if your life experiences have you in a little town in one location all of your life, then you don't have a lot to offer as far as life experiences. If you've only been around for 3 years, you don't have a lot to offer as far as life experiences. On the other hand, if you have served in these different capacities, if you have served a long time, if you have met with many different races and creeds and colors and nationalities and skin colors and everything else, then that experience and that knowledge and that wisdom should have everything to do with what you're doing. Now, with that said, if I believe that X is wrong, then it doesn't matter. If I believe that Y is right, it doesn't matter. What I believe as far as right and wrong has to come from the law and the law only. And that's all that should guide me on that point.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy, same question. 90 seconds.
Yeah, I think that the main issue is, as far as personal beliefs go, you need to find a judge that is going to bring their experience, their background. That plays a big part in who they are and how they're going to decide any particular question of law. And I think it's important for a judge to be able to call back on their experience. And sort of kind of like what Mr. Hogue said, it's important to have a varied and diversified experience. That's why we need judges that haven't just practiced in one particular courtroom, but had practiced in a variety of courtrooms. I have been licensed in 3 different jurisdictions. I've taken the bar exam more times than I care to, but I love the state of Arkansas, love where we're at. But we need to make sure that those personal beliefs do not necessarily cloud the judgment overall in every particular case. And what that means is you have to make sure that when you put on the robe and that when you enter a courtroom, that you are not biased, that you're not prejudicial, and that you are taking every case on the facts and the merits that are presented before it. Every person deserves an equal shake at a case. And in my particular case, I've been able to represent both law enforcement and defendants. So I've been able to sit in both their shoes, and I understand exactly where they're coming from. But you have to make sure that that personal belief, that background is balanced. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jordan, same question. You have 90 seconds.
Thank you. Well, I started off saying unbiased decisions, accountable actions, and I've believed that. How I personally feel about you doesn't matter. I like KFC, you like Popeyes. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's about what I am told to do under the law. I feel like at the end of the day, it's a matter of treating people with dignity and respect, listening from both sides. I've had the unique experience of serving as a public defender, of serving as a city attorney for the small community of Menifee. I've seen both sides, so I know how to weigh both sides and not interject my personal bias upon whatever my decision is that I have to make, because we all have them. We all have them. I may believe one way, you may believe differently, but when I'm on that bench, what matters is what that law says for me to do. Thank you.
And Mr. Sanders, 90 seconds.
Thank you. As a judge, we're supposed to be able to set aside the issues of politics and to make fair and impartial decisions. I think that a person's upbringing and their career experience is of the utmost importance, because if they've been a prosecutor, if they've been a defense counsel, then they're going to know what both sides are doing, and they're going to know how to handle those cases and how to make fair decisions. I've been to district court in more counties than I can count here in Arkansas, and had trials in many counties. And the deal is, it's not that the law is different in all these counties. The facts of every case is different, and you have to be able to listen to every case and to be able to make those hard decisions based on the facts, not based off of any bias that you might have or what your beliefs may be. And it's so important that we have a judge that's willing to listen to each case and to make a fair and impartial decision.
Thank you. Moving on to the next question, Ms. Jordan, I'm going to begin with you on this one. Let me approach it this way. What approach to district court will you have that will be different than what is occurring in court now, looking specifically at things such as easing the caseload and also working with programs or activities outside the courtroom?
So I had the honor of serving as a law clerk for Justice Rhonda Wood. That's how I first got exposed to the bench, and she was the juvenile judge. And that's where I learned how important programs were, especially for our children. And I am all for utilizing programs to help deter wrongdoers, especially because one of the issues that we have right now is overcrowding in our jails. And so we got to be creative of how to still hold the wrongdoers accountable, at the same time getting their attention and knowing that, okay, if you do this, you are going to be held accountable without overcrowding our jails. I'm unique. I have been born and raised here, and I have been raised with an open mindset. And so I understand the significance of experience, and what I can bring is the idea of being able to communicate effectively to whoever I have in front of me on both sides, to where there's not a barrier, communication barrier, because in district court, you're going to have young, you're going to have old, you're going to have black, you're going to have white, and you got to be able to effectively communicate. And so what I can bring is holding everyone accountable at the same time of making sure that there is that unbiased, that there is that fairness, and that there is that respect. Thank you.
Mr. Hogue, you have the same question. You have 90 seconds.
Would you repeat the question?
I'll try. The question is, how will your approach to district court be different from what is occurring in the court now, and specifically addressing issues relating to court caseload and also outside programs and activities?
Okay. I believe outside programs and activities are important. We have things like drug court. We have things like sobriety court. At the same time, I think that outside programs and activities are the ancillary, and they're not the core. The core is being able to look at someone and say, this is right, this is wrong, these are the consequences of your actions, and we're going to follow up with the consequences of your actions now. As far as what I'd like to do to make anything better, honestly, I think that Judge Clausen has done a wonderful job. He's very much a mentor of mine, and I don't really want to change what he's been doing so much as carry on a strong tradition of coming in and as he used to tell me, meting out justice one case at a time.
Thank you. Mr. Sanders, same question. You have 90 seconds.
I wouldn't say so much of change what we're doing, because like Mr. Hogue said, Judge Clausen's done a marvelous job. However, I would like to expand on the specialty court programs that we've been using in our courts. We have drug courts in circuit court, and in district court we have this DWI court program, and that's what I've been working in for the past 4 years, and that has a tremendous effect on these habitual DWI offenders. I think in the 4 years that I've participated in that program, I think our recidivism rate is something like 3% or something. And that is great. If we can expand on those programs and maybe have other specialty court programs, then maybe we can make a difference in some of these people's lives and prevent them from committing further crimes. And that is what is important here. So I would expand on specialty court programs where we can and get them involved in the community. In our DWI court, we have them working in community service all over Faulkner County. Some of y'all might have seen them working out in the community. To start off, they're doing 480 hours of community service. And for every additional DWI over 2, it's an additional 240 hours. And so we can get them involved in the community, and we can make an impact in the community there too. And so with me, it's not so much changing what we're doing, but expanding on the things that we're doing right. And so the specialty court programs, there are what we're going to focus on if I should be elected judge.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy, same question. You have 90 seconds.
There's a lot of room for expansion in Faulkner County and Conway as we continue to grow. We're one of the largest counties that does not have a court or district court meeting on the weekend. So one of the very first things that I would hope to establish is that we have courts that are open on the weekend so that we don't have people that are staying in jail for offenses that they may or may not have committed and have time to be able to bail out. So we need to have a weekend court. We also need to have additional hours in the evening. Good working people, people with full-time jobs, people that have kids at home and are taking care of them or taking care of parents. It is difficult for them to come to court 9 to 5 and the normal kind of bank hours that district court has. I want to be able to enlarge those hours and have some evenings available so that working folks don't have to take off from their job and so that moms don't have to find babysitters to watch out for the kids. Additionally, we have room for growth in our specialty court programs, especially in mental health. There's a lot of room for growth in our mental health programs, and we need to find some alternative ways to sentencing. There are amazing alternatives out there that we have not even begun to really touch in, and because we've used jail so often. And so as district court judge, I hope to be able to take what we have, expand upon it, and make the district court even better than what it is today. Thank you.
All right, now we have a new question. Mr. Sanders, I'll begin with you on this one.
Okay.
All right. So what are your thoughts of offering an incentive of not putting driving offenses on an individual's record if the full fine amount is paid in advance of a court date? And what do you see as the positives and negatives in this system? You have 90 seconds.
Well, thank you for asking that. That's something we do at our office, traffic cases routinely. And so what he's asking is what we like to call a civil penalty, or something like a judgment postponed. We use that terminology in our district court here, or a pass to dismiss, where somebody is paying a fine, but it's staying off of their record. And for some people, that is appropriate. But we have sentencing ranges for a reason. Not every case is the same. Some people, that's good for them because, maybe it's their first offense. Maybe it's a 17-year-old kid, and it's not his parents that were speeding, but it's their insurance that's going to go up. But then maybe it is, maybe it's somebody that's a habitual offender, and maybe they just can't stop committing traffic offenses, and that might not be appropriate. And so every case is different, and you have to look at the individual facts of every case. In other courts in Pulaski County, if you go to court there on a traffic ticket, a lot of the times you're going to hear them say whether you qualify for that or not. And we don't have a hard and fast rule in Faulkner County or Van Buren County for that. But that's something that we might look at, is to, hey, who is this good for and who is it not? Because we can't have one rule that just applies for everybody. You got to consider the facts of every case.
Thank you. Mrs. Jordan, same question. You have 90 seconds.
Can you repeat the question for me?
What are your thoughts of offering an incentive of not putting driving offenses on an individual's record if the full fine amount is paid in advance of a court date? What do you see as positives and negatives in this system?
Okay, so like Mr. Sanders said, we do that now, and they're all called civil penalties. Now, what the issue has been is with CDL holders, because a lot of times with the big truck drivers, they get ticketed, and then they're wanting the same treatment as we do with our regular driver license holders, and unfortunately, the law doesn't provide for that. So in order to address that issue for a CDL holder, that's going to require a legislature to address that at the legislation. But as far as the regular driver license holders, we do that now. And I believe that is a great incentive because, unfortunately, especially with new drivers, I see it all the time, they get ticketed. They're just, unfortunately, some of them are careless. And so it is a great incentive to allow them not to incorporate those points and increase those points for the insurance purpose. So I do think that us continuing the civil penalty, continuing the suspended sentence, continuing what we've been doing in that regard has been working. We probably need to just address the CDL holders to see if, if we want to continue to stay firm with them, which I understand, or if we want to modify that in their regard. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Murphy, the same question. 90 seconds.
I'm all for providing incentives on certain traffic offenses. However, I think in the question it said driving offenses, and that simply is too broad of a term to just make one answer for. Essentially, a driving offense could be anything from 1 mile over the speeding limit to a homicide while driving a vehicle. Just the other day, I'm driving down the interstate with my family, a wide load, a big truck carrying I-beams, moved over into the left-hand lane and squished our car and essentially made the minivan a convertible. If you want a minivan convertible, there's one out for you in the middle of nowhere, Texas. Budget rent-a-car would be happy to talk to you. But that's a very serious offense, and that's a much different offense than a mere 1 mile over the speed limit on the interstate. And so we have to be very careful. In district courts especially, we need to take things on a case-by-case basis. We need to look at the facts and judge them as such. Passing a school bus is a much more serious offense than simply not paying your parking ticket. So all that to say is I agree with giving incentives. We do need to rely on the legislature, but we also need to take things on a case-by-case basis. Thank you.
Mr. Hogue, same question. You have 90 seconds.
I'm not going to ask you to repeat it this time. I'm going to reiterate what my three opponents have said verbatim, which is case-by-case basis. We can do that right now. We can offer those incentives right now. That's done between the party or the defense attorney for the party and the prosecutor. That can be worked out. But as far as a blanket to offer that incentive, no, I'm against it. I want to make that clear. I don't think that if that's something that the legislature would do, first of all, I'm not a big fan of the legislature coming in and and roping judges into smaller decision making. I think that the judges should have the discretion to do what's right on a case-by-case basis there and not answer to the legislator on that point.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hogue. That is all the time that we have in this section of the debate for questions, and so now we're going to move into the closing statements. And as I said, this was determined beforehand through a draw, and Mr. Hogue, you will go first on the closing statement, and you have 1 minute.
1 minute. Experience and qualifications. 28 years of law practice. 26 or 27 of that is in Arkansas, in Conway, in Faulkner County, and Van Buren County. That's what I've been doing. I've been practicing in civil rights. I've been practicing in criminal defense. I've been practicing in prosecution. All three of those areas and more. And that's what I want to bring to the table is 28 years of experience. I'm asking for your vote. I'm asking for your support. And I'm asking for you to vote not based on how many signs a person has or how good looking they are or anything else so much as because I would lose both of those. I'm asking you to vote based on qualifications and experience. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hogue. Mr. Murphy, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
You've heard it said many times tonight that it's important for a judge to be fair and impartial, and I completely agree. In fact, I agree so much that I have not taken a dime of money from anybody that may appear in my court. That's an attorney, defendant. I think that it's important for the judiciary to be impartial. I believe also that I have the experience necessary to be the district court judge. As I mentioned earlier, I've got 21 years litigation experience in federal, state court at both the trial and the appellate level. I also have the unique administrative ability. We have a lot of issues in district court, and I have the ability to help solve these administrative problems. And finally, I believe that Conway is a great city. I believe that Faulkner County is a great city, and I think that district court can be great, but we need the right person to be able to step in. And I'm telling you tonight, I'm the right person. If you want district court to rise to the level that Conway should expect, then vote for Phil Murphy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Murphy. Ms. Jordan. No, excuse me. My mistake. Mr. Sanders.
All right. First, I want to thank our host, Pastor Maltbia, and the church, the cabin, Conway Corp. And I also want to thank all of you for coming and for everybody that might be watching at home, because it is so important that we have public discussions about our judiciary and how we can improve our community safety. And so I want everybody who comes into district court to understand that they had a fair day in court and that they were listened to and that they were heard, whether they achieved the results that they want or not. And I've had cases and trials all over the state, but what I've determined is that the facts are what matters. And I pledge to you to listen to the facts of every case and to make a fair decision and to follow the law. I've also listened to law enforcement officers and victims, heard their concerns, and I'm ready to act on those concerns and to solve problems in this court. I ask that you vote for me, Landon Sanders, on March the 5th.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders. Ms. Jordan, you have 1 minute.
We have reached a pivotal point in our community, in our society right now, and it is important that you exercise your right to vote. You need to make known the issues that are concerning you, regardless of how big or how small, and you need to address those with the proper persons, whether it's the elected officials or those that are in office. We don't need a judge that's so far disconnected from the community that they don't know the issues that are facing our community. I've been involved from the Conway Public School Foundation, helping raise money for our teachers, to serving on the Supreme Court Civil Practice Committee to help determine what rules that us attorneys have to abide by, to serving as Stop Domestic Violence attorney for the entire Faulkner County. I've been involved, and I'm aware of the challenges that are facing our citizens of not only Faulkner County, but Van Buren County. And I'm asking for your trust, I'm asking for your support, and I'm humbly asking for your vote. Thank you. God bless you.
I want to thank all of the candidates for this Division II district judge sheet. Just a reminder that this will be voted on in the primary election on March 5th, that there is a runoff. That won't be all the way till November. You have plenty of time to cool your heels and go out and campaign on that. There also is another, the Division I District Judge race is also being contested during the primary season, and that is between Chris Carnahan and Evan Hope. But thank you to these 4 candidates. We will proceed with the debate. Next, we will do House District 56 with Steve McGee and Queen Lakeislia, I knew I'd get it right, Mosley. Mr. McGee, can I have you this microphone? Yes, sir. The one on the inside. In the other 3 races that we're doing today, we only have 2 candidates, so the ground rules for them, or the rules are the same, but the format is a little bit different. Each will begin with a 1.5 minute opening statement, and that will be followed by our question and answer segment. Each question will be asked of both candidates. The first candidate to respond, pay attention now, will be given 1.5 minutes. The second candidate will then have 2 minutes for a response, and then the first candidate will have an additional 30 seconds for a follow-up. We'll use this format for this race and also for both of the school board races as well. And the order in which a candidate answers the question will rotate with each question. The order of opening statements, closing statements, order of questions is all determined by a coin toss before the debate began. And Mr. McGee, you will go first on this portion of the opening statement, and you have 90 seconds.
Thank you, Mr. Keith. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for coming out and participating in this, and particularly people at home that watch this at home. Political debates like this are an important thing. It's a great thing that we can do in our democracy. I'm Stephen McGee. I'm running for re-election, District 56, here in the city of Conway and some surrounding areas out. I'm your current state representative. I love the job, and I ask for your vote. I would like to be re-elected to continue the fight for Conway. I want to thank Conway Corporation for their sponsorship, True Holiness, and the Log Cabin. Especially want to thank True Holiness. If you've never been out here on a Sunday morning and gone to church and listened to Pastor Maltby's message in church, you need to come. I've done it for many, many years. He is a very insightful man, and you can go home with a good way to start your week after your Sunday worship service. So I would encourage you to come out here, and I thank him for doing that. Primary election, February 20th. During the election day is March the 5th. I ask for your vote on March the 5th. For those of you that may not be convinced to vote for me, March the 5th is my wife's birthday, and she would appreciate your vote for me, so I'll stay out of her hair for the next 2 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGee. Our other candidate, Queen Lakeislia Mosley, you now have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Hey everybody, my name is Queen Lakeislia Mosley. That's Lakeislia. My ballot name is Queen Lakeislia Mosley. My website is lakeisliaforarkansas.com. Please check it out. So I'm here today because, also thanks for inviting me here. I'm here because I haven't always been into politics, but the year of 2020, during the George Floyd protest, I led the protest here in Conway for George Floyd, and my voice shook I wanted my voice to shake the whole state of Arkansas, and I realized that I was actually a good leader, and I decided to, I wanted to go off actions. So I decided that I wanted to get into politics and run for state house representative and make changes so I could be a voice for not just the minority people, but for everyone. And I look at it as the modern day civil rights movement, and I'm just ready to move forward, and I'm just ready to see what life has for me. And that's why I decided to run for state house representative.
Thank you. So, Ms. Mosley, you will receive the first question. So more than, as of today, with an election to come, more than 80 members of the Arkansas House of Representatives are Republicans. As a Democrat, what will it take to be an effective member of the legislature who gets bills passed and represents your constituents?
First off,
You have a minute and a half.
okay. I feel like I said, just being engaged with my community. I want to be able to go out and talk to them directly to see what the issues are that we all are facing. Not just me being a statistic, but also just me knowing from each point of view from all perspectives, from all people. I just want y'all to know that I'm here for everyone, not just the minority people. And I feel like just engaging with everyone, whether that's social media, canvassing, knocking on doors, getting the word out. I'm about action, and I'm not just about talk. And my passion is doing whatever it is that I seek my mind to. And I'm just, like I said, I'm new at this, and I'm just looking forward for the adventure. And I'm ready for change, and I believe change starts with us. And like John Lewis said, if not us, then who? If not now, then when? And so now is the time. And I believe that I am the one to be able to make that happen, going off actions.
Thank you. Mr. McGee, same question. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Short answer, relationships and experience count. It's a tough environment serving as in the minority party in a supermajority. It's tough having the fight. I do have relationships with many people. I've been there a number of years, and I think that is a definite advantage. I'm a very trusted individual in the legislature. I've worked very hard to work across party lines when I can for things that we can agree upon. I've equally worked just as hard to oppose things that I think are not good. Now, what people sometimes may not understand is a lot of what happens down there at the Capitol happens behind the scenes. The Democrats got the teachers their raises. The Democrats put in legislation initially. It didn't go anywhere. It didn't get out of committee. It just kind of got talked about. But it set the bar for the standard for what eventually came partially through the LEARNS Act. And that's another thing. That's a horrible thing. Maybe we'll get into the LEARNS Act a little bit later tonight. But it's vitally important to work with people, to establish relationships, establish that trust so that you can go to them and talk with them and visit with them and fight with them behind the scenes and try to make changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Mosley, you have 30 seconds for additional comments on this question. All right, we will move to the next question. We'll begin with Mr. McGee. You will have a minute and a half.
Okay.
Governor Sarah Sanders is in a feud with the Board of Corrections. I worked long and hard on what word to put in that sentence. Over the control of the prison system. Although this is an executive branch dispute, what role, if any, should the legislature play in mediating or resolving this issue? And also feel free to speak more broadly to what are the corrections needs and how to address them in this state. Okay. You have a minute and a half for all that.
Well, we need about 3 days. I don't agree with many of the things that Governor Sanders has done, period. I can only think of one thing she's done as governor that I thought was good, and that was to supplement the children in the summertime with their meals. Everything else that she's done, I wish I had her podium. I thought maybe I'd go ask and see if I could borrow the podium, but they didn't do that. They wouldn't allow me that. This dispute between the prison board it's a territorial dispute between a governor who is a bully, who wants to try to ramrod over everything in the state. She rules by intimidation, and she thinks she's going to get her way. And I don't think that she will in the end. The whole thing started with the Criminal Justice Reform Act, which all was an act to, boy, those yellow signs come up real quick back there when you're running out of time. The whole thing was an act just to increase prison sentences and lock everybody up forever. That's not the answer. And the answer for the prison board is not having someone in her employ come in and just say, we're going to increase these beds. She should have brought people in, sat down in the private of their office and discussed those issues and had people involved to come up with a better solution.
Thank you, Mr. McGee. Ms. Mosley, your same question, and you have 2 minutes.
Okay, can you repeat the question?
Yes, Governor Sarah Sanders is in a feud with the Board of Corrections over control of the prison system. Although this is an executive branch dispute, what role, if any, should the legislature play in mediating or resolving this issue? You also may feel free to address other needs within the prison system and how to address them.
Okay, I feel as if the board should be more diverse to see the issues all around, because sometimes whenever you are facing a prison sentence, you see the majority of the prisoners are African American. Not just speaking on African American, but it's just they don't really have, their needs are not really met because the majority are not people of color. And just like Steve McGee stated, that they need, people with better training to come together as one and just be able to have the good training and to make better decisions on that part.
Thank you. Mr. McGee, you have 30 additional seconds on this question.
If you want to make the changes and have the legislature make the governor make the changes, you folks need to get out and elect more Democrats. They are not going to do anything to alienate that governor. They are in step with her 100% of the way, and unless we have at least can get to the point where we have to bring them to the table, you won't see any changes in that. The only one change we could make real quick, we could pass legislation next time to change the appointment of the secretary. That's a whole different story. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGee. Moving on to the next question, Ms. Mosley, you will get this question first and have 90 seconds. The Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy released a report earlier this month that listed Arkansas as having the 9th most regressive tax system in the nation. This ranking is based in part on the state's lower income tax rates and its dependence on sales and excise taxes. First of all, do you agree with the results of this report? And secondly, what adjustments are needed in the state's tax policy?
Honestly, by me being a small business owner of Queens Appointed Touch, I feel like small business owners should be one of the focuses one thing that we focus on, so small business owners can have a small tax break. Yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. All right. Mr. McGee, you have 2 minutes.
Folks, everybody's got to pay taxes, okay? You like good roads, you like infrastructure, you like good schools. We have to do our part to do that. If we don't do our part, we'll end up in a world of hurt. You can't put a lot of things off. Ask the judge to go fix all the potholes. If he doesn't have the money to fix them, he can't get them fixed. We do have a regressive tax system in the state of Arkansas. It is disproportionately falls a hardship on people of lower economic means. Sales tax on products. If I were going to change taxes, I wouldn't change income tax. I would try to reduce sales taxes. Sales taxes on various products that people have to buy, that sort of thing. But you have to realize when you start changing sales tax and you start changing income tax, that money has to come from somewhere. And in states where you have no income tax, well, guess what? They have higher property taxes. Maybe that's a fair system. I know some people from Nebraska, they pay $700 a year for their car tax. So, what do we pay? 25 bucks? I don't know what it is, 25 or 30 bucks. So the money has to come from somewhere. I have supported many of the tax cuts that have come through the legislature over the last years for different businesses and different entities. I've supported some of the income tax cuts. Some of them I haven't supported. But if we do need to become more competitive with our surrounding states in terms of income, but we can't balance that on the backs of people that are less advantaged. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Ms. Mosley, you have another 30 seconds if you want to address tax policy issues.
I don't.
Okay. All right. Moving on to the next question. Mr. McGee, the Arkansas legislature passed a bill last year limits what actions local governments can take restricting crypto mining. Although residents near these facilities are exposed to excessive amounts of constant noise. Is this an issue that the legislature should revisit? And more broadly, how should the legislature balance placing restrictions on local government and allowing local control? You have 90 seconds.
Tough question. When that came about, some of the legislation that was passed last session did increase the ability for some of these entities to be developed in different communities. And that has led to a lot of further debate that's going to be debated more this next session. And I think that you will see legislation this next session. I believe in local control. The Republicans in Little Rock don't believe in local control. Ask them what they do when they pass bills that take it away from us. I think if a community does not want that in their community, they should have every right to prevent that in their community. And at the present time, they don't. So I would support that type of legislation that would come along. Elect more Democrats. We'll take care of you.
Mrs. Mosley, you have the same question, and you have 2 minutes.
I have no statement.
You no statement?
No, sir.
All right. Okay. Well, Mr. McGee, you may have another 30 seconds if you would like.
On the same question?
Yes.
Maybe I might pivot that to something else.
You have 30 seconds.
I have 30 seconds. Like I said, I think that issue, you know, when a legislative session is going on, there are thousands of bills that are going through, and sometimes things slip through the cracks that legislation's not so good gets passed. And that's why we have a session every 2 years. We can come back and address those issues and listen to the concerns of the people and try to make adjustments that balance the needs of our local communities and the needs of the business community.
All right. Thank you very much, Mr. McGee. So that is all the time we're going to do for questions on this portion of the debate. And so now we'll have the closing statements. Ms. Mosley, you will go first, and you have 1 minute for a closing statement.
Okay, like I said once before, I'm new at this, and just because I'm new at this doesn't mean that I cannot fight the fight. Just because I'm new at this doesn't mean that I can't run the race. It's not about new leadership, it's about better leadership. And if you've never been in the shoes of being in the legislative, you don't really know too much about it. But once I get in, I know, I can fight for the people. I've been doing it for a while, and just like I said, if you get on my website at www.lakeisleafarkansas.com, you can see what I have done in my community, and my fight doesn't stop, and my passion is there. So I know throughout time I'll get stronger and I'll get better and I'll have more confidence, you know. So I'm just going to keep on doing what I do best, and that's fighting for my people.
Thank you. Mr. McGee, you have 1 minute to close.
Thank you. Thank you for everyone in attendance and for everyone at home listening. I hope that this has been beneficial for you. I'm Stephen McGee. I'm a physician. I'm a doctor here in Conway. I'm one of only 2 doctors in the state legislature, one of 2 doctors in a 135-member legislature. I'm Conway's doctor. I am your doctor in the legislature. I went into this years ago because of health care. I love health care. That's why I'm a physician. But my primary focus is health care. I want everyone to access health care, quality, affordable health care. Second is education. We have the greatest schools in Conway. I want to try to do everything that I can to protect the schools of Conway, oppose some of the far-right agenda that's going to come along. Thank you again, and I ask sincerely for your vote, and it's been an honor to serve for the last 11 years, going on 12 now. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. McGee. Thank you, Mrs. Mosley. We will now move into the Conway School Board races. We'll begin first with position 4. This involves Ruth Ann Curry Brown on this side and the incumbent Trip Leach on the other. The format for this round of debates is the same as it was for the legislative debate, where each candidate will have a 90-second opening statement. We will begin with then the question and answers, where they will have a minute and a half. The second one will have 2 minutes, and then the first candidate will have 30 seconds for it as well. And then at the end, each candidate will have 1 minute. As with the other races, we flipped a coin to see who went first and second in all of this. And as a result of that, Ruth Ann Curry Brown, you will go first for your 90-second opening statement.
Thank you. Good evening, everybody. How are you? I'm so glad to be here. Thank you, True Holiness. Thank you for Conway Corps. Thank you to the Log Cabin. Thank you all. I see a lot of wonderful faces here. I'm so glad to see you. I'm Ruth Ann Curry Brown, and I'm running for Zone 4 of Conway School System for the board. I am a professional educator. I have 30-plus years under my belt in all levels across the state. I am a passionate supporter of learning and teaching in all areas. And I believe that the school board has a distinct, that they are required to follow the whole idea of public education, which is for the core of education. Let's get our students out there to be the best they can be. There's the yellow signs. Boy, that was shocking. Our students need to be taught everything they need to be taught. We need to have fiscal responsibility, and we need to have more open communication with our community.
Thank you. Mr. Leach, for your opening statement, you have 90 seconds.
Hi, my name is Trip Leach. I'm seeking re-election for School Board Zone 4. I've had the privilege to be on the board for 10 years, and I believe my experience and my skill set in leadership can continue to add value to the school. School board has 4 primary roles. Contrary to popular belief, we don't run your schools or teach your kids. We have wonderful staff that do that. We hire a superintendent and we evaluate him. I was privileged to be the president during that time, and I led our board through that search process. The process to me that was important was getting key stakeholders' input, whether you were the janitor, whether you were the teacher, or even students, all involved in that process. The second thing we do is create policy. Contrary to popular belief, I can't create a policy on my own. I have to work with a team. I've had the privilege to work with 15 different individual board members. 3 of them are sitting in this crowd today, and I respect every one of them and had a really good time working with them. 3, we oversee the finances of our district. Conway Public Schools is a $100 million budget, $1.8 million of infrastructure. We cannot mess that up. I'm the only board member right now that my day-to-day job as CFO of New Life Church is overseeing finances. And lastly, we're the final discipline for kids and teachers. And honestly, as a parent, that's the toughest job because it's always hard to send a kid home even if they deserve it. So my name's Trip Leach. I would appreciate your vote.
Thank you, Mr. Leach. So, Mr. Leach, you also will get the first question. So, the Arkansas Department of Education school report card rates Conway Elementary schools from grades A to grade D, with the lower-rated schools also being those with the highest percentage of low-income students. Now, recognizing this relationship between student performance and family income has been basically the same for decades, not in Conway, but throughout education. At long last, what can the school board do, the school district do, to equalize educational achievement across all of its schools?
Yes, so it's true. Conway Public Schools is a large district, and the kids that come in our district have unique needs, as unique as the fingerprints on their fingers. And so it's a big challenge. We have 1,500 kids in special education services. We have 500 kids English language learners, but we also have 1,700 kids in advanced placement courses and GT classes. And so as a parent, I know the challenges because I have 4 kids, one with dyslexia, one with special needs. I understand the challenges that teachers face in the classroom, and what we have to do as a school board is we have to support those teachers. And so one of the things I'm proud of, amongst the many things I'm proud of, is we have a professional development person that we just hired. Her name's Sarah, and she does a wonderful job. And she equips the teachers, develops them so that they can meet all the various challenges, including the economic challenges that you mentioned. And so as a school board member, I will continue to support our teachers in those efforts.
Mrs. Brown, the same question, and you have 2 minutes.
Would you repeat, please?
I will. So the Arkansas Department of Education school report card rates Conway Elementary schools from grade A to grade D, with the lower rated schools also being those with the highest percentage of low-income students. Recognizing the relationship between student performance and family income has been basically the same for decades. What can the school board and the school district do to equalize educational achievement across all schools?
That's a really tough question, and I agree with Mr. Leach that all of the support that we can gather, can muster together for our teachers is truly important. But we also have a high rate of absenteeism, and that is being caused partly by the academic gap from the pandemic, and we need to bring back the kind of support services, the mental health services we need for our kids, not only our kids, our teachers. My kids went through the school system and graduated, and during that time, Conway schools were rated and thought of, and the community pride in our schools was very high. I have noticed in talking to teachers that they are nervous about the coming days, the coming years, being teachers in the school. I'm glad that we have started to build some support systems for our teachers, but we need more than that. And I think that the school board is responsible for all that goes on in the schools, top down. And if we are not accessible to the parents, to the teachers, to the students, to have them come and talk to us day by day. I've been in that classroom every day and seen all margins of problems come in and out. And I can tell you that without administrative support, the problems don't get solved. We need to do our best to help.
Thank you. Mr. Leach, you have 30 seconds on the same question.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with Curry. We do need to continue to support our teachers. But another thing we need to do is provide time outside of the traditional block of teaching to meet those needs. And we're piloting some of those in our elementary school, like Jim Stone. They have a wonderful program called WINS, What I Need, where it doesn't matter what grade level you are. We pull you out and we meet those needs. And so that way the traditional block time of class can be dedicated to keep kids moving along on grade topics. So
thank you. All right, next question, beginning first with Ms. Brown. If you were to sit down with Governor Sarah Sanders and were allowed to discuss only the LEARNS Act, what provisions would you tell her to keep? Which ones should be amended and how? Which ones should be dropped? And what is your reasoning for each? You have a
Why,
minute and
thank
a
you,
half.
David. I'm afraid that if I sat down with Sarah Huckabee Sanders, it would not be a pleasant conversation. First of all, I am so glad we have raised teacher salaries. But what hasn't happened is the figuring out how we are going to pay for that. And the onus that is put on school districts to bring teachers who are already been in the system for years their scaled pay. So that has not happened. I am so thankful to Dr. McGee and others for getting teacher salaries in there. That's the first thing. We need to stop bleeding dollars out of our public school system into the private schools. Thank you. I don't know if you know this, but private schools are recruiting our children by offering them better academics, better athletic choices, and now they have some of their enrollment paid for. They are actively recruiting. We have lost enrollment in our Conway Public Schools. In order to get it back, we have to...
I have to call time.
We need to get it back.
Mr. Leach, you have 2 minutes on the same question.
Yes. Well, I have a different opinion on that. The Learns Act does not bother me. And the reason why it doesn't bother me is because I do believe competition is good in a free society. If you have to get paid in order, you have to do better to get paid, then guess what? You got to do better. And Conway Public Schools is a great school. So I'm also not intimidated by private schools taking our children, because I think we have a wonderful system with wonderful teachers. For example, Conway was already paying our teachers well. You know, we didn't really have to upgrade the teachers at the bottom very much to be in compliance. Now, I will agree with Curry that the teachers
Curry
at the Curry Brown, the higher end, the teachers at the higher end, they didn't get quite the bump that the lower end did, because there was quite an increase there. So I would have just asked her, can we get a percentage increase so we can spread that out? Because if you have a teacher with experience, you should get paid more than someone brand new coming into our district. But I'm also in agreement that I'm glad our teachers, they're worth every penny. COVID taught me that when I started teaching my kids. It's like, praise the Lord for our teachers. Very thankful for that. But like I said, I think the Learns Act is going to not interrupt Conway, what we're doing. We're going to keep doing what we do well, and that's educate and take care of your kids.
All right, thank you. And Ms. Brown, you have 30 additional seconds on the same question.
I would say that having been a teacher on a teacher's salary full-time, if I had been a single mom with children, I would not have been able to afford to live in Conway. So even with 30 years under my belt, it would be very difficult. Secondly, I want to say that we need to address absenteeism, and there is nothing in the Learns Act that gives us the provision to do so.
That's time.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the next question, and begin with Mr. Leach. The Arkansas Freedom of Information Act allows public boards to meet in executive session only to discuss a defined list of personnel matters. Last spring, the Arkansas legislature passed a bill that provides FOI exceptions to allow school boards, only school boards, to meet in executive session to discuss litigation, settlement offers, superintendent contract disputes, and real property, and to have an attorney present for these discussions. None of these were allowed prior to this bill. How do you define transparency for a school board, and do you support these new FOI exceptions for school boards?
Repeat that one time, please.
Which part? All of it?
Yeah, well, the part specifically about the changes.
Okay. The added for an executive session for a school board is they may discuss litigation and settlement offers, superintendent contract disputes, and real property. And they may have an attorney present for these discussions.
Okay, and the final part of that question?
And the question is, how do you define transparency for a school board, and do you support these new FOI exceptions for school boards?
Okay. Well, obviously, I'm for transparency of information.
How do you define it?
How do I define it? Well, we can't make a decision without going public. So even though we discuss it maybe in private quarters, my understanding is we have to come out and make a vote publicly, and that whatever decision we make will eventually make its way out to the public. And so, like I said, I'm for freedom of information, obviously. I've been FOI'd about 1,000 times. And there are some practicality elements that come into play with freedom of information. When you have the same person FOIing you 1,000 times, and it doesn't seem like they're really asking question. They're questioning you as a person. And so I think we should have some reasonableness to it while still being very transparent to our public, because they deserve it. It's tax dollars, and I'm totally okay with that. So that's my answer.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, you have same question, and you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. First of all, transparency. I think there are two parts to that word. The first is availability of me as a school board member, being able to talk to teachers, talk to administrators, talk to the kids. What's going on? What do you need? How can we help? That transparency, if you are involved with everybody, that can be brought back to the board and shared with the whole community. That's important. That's one part of transparency. The other part of transparency, there are always things on any board, on any organization, that have to be dealt with in private matters. But we all know that there have been some FOI things that have come up that didn't deal with personnel or school board matters, but that dealt with personal matters. And I think that should not be available to the public unless it has something to do with the responsibilities and the work of the board.
All right, thank you. Mr. Leach, you have 30 additional seconds on this question.
I agree with what she said, that last statement. So, yeah.
All right. Moving on to the next question, beginning with Ms. Brown. As part of the LEARNS Act, school districts no longer are allowed to count online learning, which the state calls alternative methods of instruction, toward the 178 required student instruction days. I could ask, should Conway schools met on Monday and we could have a real debate, right?
Easy. That's not very fair.
Fine,
That's
well,
not
we
very
won't go
nice.
there. All right. But
Just be neutral.
do you believe these alternative method of instruction days, should they count toward total days? And if not, what are the reasons, the incentives for school districts to invest in online learning technologies?
That's definitely a two-part question. First of all, our AMI days, our alternative method of instruction days, I taught through the pandemic. Without it, I would not have had any connection with my students, and that was really, really important. I think that, as has come up, many school districts have asked Governor Sanders' office through Tim Griffin about whether their home school days, their school snow days, will count toward their 178 days of instruction. The answer that came back from the Attorney General office was, I'm not really sure. The legislature needs to make that more clear. What does that tell us? That tells me that as long as a school board and a superintendent and a board decides it could be used, that legally we still have that opportunity until something is settled in the legislature. I love technology. I want to see my kids every day in my classroom and not on the computer if we can help it.
All right, thank you. Mr. Leach, same question.
I'm sorry, will you repeat it one more time for me?
Sure. Alternative method of instruction days no longer count toward the 178 required student instruction days. Do you believe they should count? And if not, what are the reasons and the incentives for school districts to invest in online learning technologies? You have 2 minutes.
Okay, well, yes. So I think they swung the pendulum the other direction because they had to really loosen up things for COVID because of our circumstances. Now I think they're tightening up because I do agree with my opponent that learning, you can't replace in-person learning online, at least not right now, right? Because teachers are amazing. You know, just that interaction, being able to look at a child in the face and smile at them, you just can't replace that. So I do think there's some value with having the kids be in classrooms. But, come on, we're also in a century where technology is an everyday part of our life. So we do have to figure out ways to accommodate online learning. because that's where everything's going. And so I do think there needs to be a balance. I do think we should be able to have some AMI days, but maybe limit those to a moderate amount, so that way most of the learning happens with the teacher face-to-face. But then we have some flexibilities. When we get a snow apocalypse, they hit us, and we're not, not prepared for that. So anyways.
All right, thank you. Ms. Brown, you have 30 additional seconds on this.
Technology is important. We have moved into the 21st century, and education has not necessarily followed. But teachers are being trained to use smart boards, to use all the technology in the classroom with their kids, and that's really, really, really important. If your kid is sick, they're going to take a sick day. They're going to be home. If we have a snow day, I'm not quite sure what the difference is with those kids at home. They can still learn online.
That is time.
Thank you.
Next question, and we're beginning with Ms. Brown. Much has been written and said about how to make schools safer, from hardening exteriors, limiting access to buildings, using metal detectors, increasing law enforcement presence, arming faculty and teachers, faculty and staff. How would you rate the safety of the Conway schools now, and how would you advocate to protect everyone on campus, both from threats coming from outside the school and in situations arising between students, teachers, staff, whoever's inside the building? You have a minute and a half.
Hot button item, huh? Let me say this. Teachers are trained and passionate and love teaching.
Ms. Brown, I want to interrupt you. I made a mistake. This should have gone first to Mr. Leach. Hold that thought.
I'll hold
I'm
that
sorry.
thought.
Do you need me to repeat the question?
Okay, no, I got it. I got it. Okay.
You have a minute and a half.
Okay.
I apologize.
No, that's great. I love this question. As a parent, that's the question that keeps me up at night. Whether it is a madman coming to harm our kids, or whether it's a tornado ripping through our towns, there's a lot of factors to safety. And in my tenure, I am very proud that we have prioritized safety at Conway Public Schools. I'd rank it 8. I mean, we've always got improvement, but man, we have invested millions of dollars of infrastructure in safe rooms. We have safe rooms at every one of our elementaries and our middle schools. And as a bonus to you guys, when the kids aren't in school, the alarms go off, you can actually, as citizens, go into those safe rooms. We've also spent lots of money, impact-resistant glass on all of our front schools, 2 system entryways. And the best thing we've done, I feel like, in my opinion, recently is hiring Eric King. This guy, that's all he thinks about. When he wakes up every day, he thinks about, how do I keep our kids safe, and how do I keep our teachers safe, and how do I keep our visitors safe? And I'm so grateful for that man because of those precious little kids back there that attend our schools.
Thank you, Mr. Leach. Ms. Brown, you now have 2 minutes on this question.
Teachers are trained to teach. Our wonderful resource officers are trained to help keep our teachers safe. Our administrators are trained to the hilt on how to get those kids in safe rooms and how to deal with any kind of traumatic situation. I think that the money invested has been fabulous, and I know about these things. And I remember the time when a deer went through the front window of the old pods, when we had the old pods, right through the front window. I think maybe a couple of you might remember that. We've come a long way since then, and I am very happy to let our teachers continue to teach and do what they know and how they know to do it best, and let our administrators and our resource officers take care of our safety for our kids.
Mr. Leach, you have 30 additional seconds.
The only thing I'll say, too, on that subject, like I said, we're doing a fantastic job as Conway, is she mentioned safety resource officers, and I love our partnership with the city. Bart and the city has been so gracious to pay for half of those, and we have wonderful SROs. We just need more of them. We have a little bit of a gap there, and so I'm a big proponent of getting one at each and every school.
All right, thank you. Now, that is all the time that we have for questions in this round. And so now we'll go to the closing 1-minute statements. And Mr. Leach, you will go first. You have 1 minute.
Okay, well, so I'll get a little honest with you guys. It was difficult knowing if I was going to run again. I've been on the board for 10 years, and this last term was difficult. It was really difficult. Some of my close friends said, Tripp, why do you want to do this again? And those little guys back there are my why. You know, kids are our legacy. These kids right here, they're looking so cute. They're our legacy. We've messed a lot of things up, but these kids can truly make positive change. They have love in their hearts, determination on their brow, grit on their hands. They can fix all these problems. Last thing I'll say, I was president through the 2 most challenging years of my life, COVID. And this is what I learned about myself. I learned a lot of things about myself, but the most important thing I learned about myself is I am committed to this town and to these kids in the good times and the bad. So I would appreciate your vote. Thank you for your time. Thank you, Pastor Montbia. This has been wonderful.
All right, Ms. Brown, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
First of all, thank you again, Pastor Montbia, and all of you for coming tonight. There are a lot of things that we do well in the Conway Public School System. I miss being involved in that. I want to be a fresh voice and a new look, somebody who has a lot of years in the classroom all around the state. I've seen a lot, and I think that I can help bring our school district into the 21st century. There are a lot of new things happening in education. We need to look at those and make some changes. It's been an honor to be here. Thank you.
Thank you to the candidates. I guess you are excused, shall we say, and we'll go right into the Zone 5 position, which is Trey Geyer and Bill Milburn. Mr. Geyer, if you'll come to this side, please. As we're shifting around, I would say the format for this portion of the debate is the same as we have had for the last 2. And so we will begin with the 90-second opening statement, and per the results of the coin flip, Mr. Milburn, you will go first for your opening statement. You have 90 seconds.
Thanks for coming out tonight, first of all, and being interested in your community and participating. We need more of this. Thought I could, is that on now? Somebody sabotaged me. Thanks for coming out and participating in the process. The only thing wrong with the crew that's here is it should be wall to wall. Our citizens have to participate and learn and be educated. I was born in Conway, graduated Conway High School. 5 generations of my family have grown up and called Conway home. My first job when I was 12 years old was pushing my mower up Clifton Street and mowing Miss Ida Burns' yard. So I've been around a while. I know the Conway School District. I think one thing in particular that makes me particularly qualified is my 27 years of police experience. They mentioned Eric King. Back in 2000, I was part of the management team that started School Resource Officer in Conway, and Eric was appointed as the first one. As I got promoted, I supervised the school resource program. So school safety has kind of been my specialty item. So,
Thank you. Mr. Geyer, you have 90 seconds for your opening statement.
Absolutely. I'm Trey Geyer. I'm seeking re-election in Zone 5. I've been on the board for 8 months now, and I'm happy to report Conway Schools is amazing. We're doing great things. I've got 3 kids in the district at the high school, middle school, and elementary. I have a vested interest in Conway. I see a lot of people in a lot of different facets at all 3 campuses. There's 16 campuses in Conway, and I've visited 2/3 of them. In the next 4 months, I'll visit all of them. It's been a wonderful experience and a distinct honor. Thank you so much for Pastor Maltby, for Log Cabin. Thank you so much for being here. We have the Champion Circle that's coming up that all of you should be at. We're doing a wonderful job as a board to reach out to the community. That's an area that you can be involved in. Thank you so much for being here.
So, Mr. Geyer, the first question will come to you. I'm coming to both of you. So, both of you have experience on the Conway School Board. How has your perspective of being a school board member, school member roles and responsibilities? Let me start over. I have not done well on this one. Both of you have experience on the Conway School Board. How has your perspective of a school board member's role and responsibility, even what you hope to accomplish as a board member, changed from the time before you served? Mr. Geyer, you have a minute and a half.
Absolutely. I was elected to the school board. That's the first thing. It's been a wonderful, wonderful experience. A little bit about my background. I'm a roofer by trade. I'm not an educator. I'm a veteran. I've got 3 kids in the district. It's a wonderful time to be on the board. There's things that we need to fix. There's things where we're doing great. The first thing that we need to fix is the junior high. That's something that we need to work on, and you'll see that coming up. So there's things that we need to fix. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Milburn, same question. You have 2 minutes.
Repeat that if you would.
How has your perspective of a school board member's role and responsibilities, even what you hope to accomplish as a board member, changed from the time before you served on the board?
People that have not served on a school board think that you can decide what kind of toilet paper goes in each room or the day-to-day activities. The school board hires the superintendent, evaluates him. He hires his administrative staff and oversees down that line. So my biggest surprise was the school board has to stay pretty much at the 30,000-foot view. You can't get down in the day-to-day. You can go visit the schools, and I too did that. We had our lunch and learns, as we called them. But so far as interfering or trying to help with the day-to-day, that's not the school board's job. Budget, financial stability, hiring the superintendent, evaluating the superintendent, and voting on policies and procedures. That's the big package. Another thing that was very surprising from the angle of trying to get things done, I'm all about freedom of information. I like transparency, but sometimes it seems like it just chokes us down to where the point that, in all honesty, if I wanted to go talk to a school teacher with another school board member, we're violating freedom of information. 2 school board members outside of a board meeting can't communicate anything about school business, not even at the lowest levels, just of a pre-thought. So that was a major surprise to me. I dealt with FOI at the police department, but we didn't have the public meeting and the informal meetings to deal with. Every attorney general has ruled on the FOI. They've all had different rulings, but one thing they closed with, the law is not clear. We need the law clear.
All right, thank you, Mr. Milburn. Mr. Geyer, you have 30 additional seconds.
Absolutely. You spoke about FOIA, and I'll agree with everything Mr. Milburn said. FOIA is it's a wonderful thing. It's how the community can see what we're doing. They talked about executive session. The only thing we can talk about there is personnel actions with the superintendent. We can't talk about anything else other than building. That's it. We don't, and then we have to vote on everything after that. So FOIA is the way that the community can reach out to us. The numbers of FOIA stuff since I've been elected has gone down drastically.
That is time. And now beginning with Mr. Milburn. The Conway School District has a track record of paying its teachers above the state average. Now that the minimum pay for teachers has been raised from $36,000 to $50,000 at the state level because of the LEARNS Act, the district's advantage in this area has been reduced. What must the district do to continue to attract and hire quality teachers? You have 1.5 minutes.
Well, the district has put a couple of the administrative people in charge of recruitment, and they've done an excellent job in the last 1.5 years or two of recruiting candidates. One misconception was, even though the salaries were raised to $50,000 statewide, the board still had the ability to leave in place some of the things like bonus pay for exceptional education, and that stayed. Conway did not lose that. So the teachers that have got experience and have advanced their education, maybe got advanced degrees, are compensated for that. So I think that is a misconception. For me, the raising 50,000 statewide was great, especially for small school districts that couldn't compete with Conway or Little Rock or whoever for salary range. So that's it.
All right. Thank you. Mr. Gower, you have 2 minutes. Same question.
Absolutely. So Mr. Milburn talked about the steps that experienced teachers have. New teachers start out at $50,000. That's wonderful. Teachers that there's a gap. A teacher that's been there a year or two is not making $50,000. They got a $2,000 bump. We have some wonderful people that are doing recruiting and retention, and it's not just in Conway. We're looking at different ways that we can license teachers. We're looking outside of the state. So they're doing wonderful things. Some of the things that the school board is doing, I'm on the HR task force. I've worked with Dr. Jeffries. We're doing wonderful things for recruiting and retention. Obviously, our teachers are the things that we need to focus on, as well as our students.
Thank you, Mr. Gower. Mr. Milburn, you have 30 additional seconds on this question.
Our teachers are the most critical part of the whole system. The administrators may think they know what's going on, but the teachers in the classroom are the ones, boots on the ground, that know the kids, and they're the ones that we should be asking, how can we fix what's wrong? So the teachers need more ability to input.
All right, thank you. Turning now to Mr. Gower to begin this next question. In October 2022, a Conway School District committee recommended 2 books dealing with transgender issues be allowed to remain in school libraries. However, the school board instead voted unanimously to have the books removed. How do you view the school board's role in being responsive to the community, which includes many differing opinions, and supportive of educational professionals and students?
Absolutely. I wasn't on the board when this was made. Obviously, this was a problem. It's still there. We have to work as a board. This is something that we need to address, and will be addressed eventually. I don't know that this is going to be fixed anytime soon, but we would like to fix that. It's that and several other problems on the board. We need to work as a board to fix the things that are wrong with our schools, as well as celebrate the things that are going right.
Mr. Milburn, you have the same question, and you have 2 minutes.
Okay, that decision, that vote was taken the night before I was appointed to the board, but I fully supported their decision. The Supreme Court fully supports the decision. The Supreme Court said a school board has a right to remove age literature that's not age appropriate, that's graphic in sexual nature, or not relevant to the curriculum. The Supreme Court of the United States made that ruling. The board didn't just wake up one morning and say, let's go get books and bring them in. There's a process where a student or a parent can make a challenge, and they go up through the chain of administration to the superintendent, and if they're not happy anywhere up to that point, it comes to the school board by school policy and by state law to hear that and make the decision. I think the board took a lot of heat, like they were going to the library and digging through shelves. That wasn't fair. It was a challenge brought by student and parent, and it got reviewed up through the board, the school board. And if you were there that night, the books that were removed were so graphic that the doctor in charge of the committee couldn't read all of the letters out loud, all the words out loud. She would substitute the first letter of the words. Well, if a doctoral level person can't speak to the school zone, why should a third grader have access to that? So,
all right. Thank you, Mr. Milburn. Mr. Geyer, you have 30 additional seconds.
I will say that wasn't done. I've met with the librarians at Hendricks, UCA, as well as the school districts. A lot of those things that were banned, most of them weren't read. These are a lot of things that were problems ostracizing a marginalized, already ostracized group. This is something that we need to fix.
Thank you. Moving on to the next question, Mr. Milburn, I'll begin with you. Keeping in mind that one provision of the LEARNS Act is that third grade students have to meet a state reading requirement on a new standardized test to move to the fourth grade. How does the school district balance its curriculum with this and other regulations, and while also, how does the school district balance its curriculum with this requirement and other standardized tests?
First of all, reading is basic to all education. If you can't read and comprehend at grade level, you can't learn. I went brain dead here. The LEARNS Act specifically says that, and there are some exclusions where a kid can be passed forward, but as a general rule, the LEARNS Act says that the students with the greatest learning disability will be assigned to the teacher with the most proven success in teaching kids to read. And this was a big step from the No Child Left Behind that sounded like such a great thing, but ended up passing kids all the way through high school that maybe could only read at the fourth or fifth grade level. So it's going to take some work to make sure that the program is administered correctly, but assigning the talented teachers to the kids that have the greatest need to learn, to get them to the third grade level so that they've got an ability to move to the fourth and the fifth and the sixth and learn and comprehend, I think was a great thing in the LEARNS Act.
Thank you. Mr. Geyer, you have the same question. You have 2 minutes.
Absolutely. So this was set by the Department of Ed. This is something that we have to, as a school district, have to deal with. We have a curriculum person, Dr. Duncan, that is wonderful. She deals with all of that. We are just starting a standardized test this year, so we'll get a baseline this year. So what's going forward with that, we'll work on. Obviously, reading at the third grade level, I've got a second grader. She's learning to read. This is something that teachers do well. We look at across the district. There's elementary schools that are doing what's called win time, where they get individual small groups, so they can learn in smaller groups to learn how to read. So those are wonderful things that we want to go across the environment.
All right, thank you. And Mr. Milburn, you have 30 additional seconds.
Can't emphasize enough how important it is that a child can read. If you cannot read, you cannot learn math. You can't read the great literature. You can't learn history. You got to be able to read and comprehend. So this is a big step forward. I think we'll see across. It takes about 3 years to turn the ship around. You don't just pass a new rule and all of a sudden tomorrow everything's fine. It takes a while to get that ship turned. But in across the next 3 years, I would hope you would see some great forward motion on the kids to read.
Thank you. Next question, and we'll begin with Mr. Geyer. How do you view the school board's role in balancing, not only financially, but also in emphasis, the district's educational and extracurricular programs?
So the school board's role, as Tripp talked about, our job is to, we set policy, we're in charge of the hiring and firing, as evaluating the superintendent. There's things that we can do at that level, but there's things that we can't do. We don't want to get down in the weeds. That's the principal, and we want to handle it at the lowest level that we can. It's not. We don't want to deal with individual getting down to a student level. If it comes to the school board level, it's a bigger problem than we can deal with.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Milburn. The same question. You have 2 minutes.
Yeah, I would agree with most of what he just said. It is important that the school board doesn't get involved down on the day-to-day efforts, because if I'm dealing with a student and a parent, I'm the school board, and they think if I say something, the school board is saying it. School board is 7 people. No one board member can make policy. And if you get involved in disciplinary actions at a low level, guess what? It's the same process. If a teacher doesn't like their discipline, if a student doesn't like their discipline, they appeal it up through the administration. And where does it end up if they don't get satisfaction? The school board, by law and by policy, is set to deal with that. So it would be like a judge getting involved with a criminal on the street and trying to get him into rehab, and then all of a sudden now the criminal is standing in front of the same judge that has made friends with him. You've got to stay a little bit disconnected from the day-to-day.
Mr. Geyer, you have 30 additional seconds.
Yeah, one thing, the superintendent's job is to handle day-to-day operations. And that's why the school board is in charge of evaluating the superintendent. That's his job. Our job is to be dealing with the community. Reach out to us, that's fine. And we may push it down. For instance, I had somebody that had a question at Ellen Smith recently. I sent it down to the principal. But I talked to the superintendent first to make sure we knew what was going on, as well as kept tracking of it. I don't want to get in the weeds.
That's time. Next question, I'll begin with Mr. Milburn. What do you believe will be the long-term effect, 5, 10 years or more, of the LEARNS Act, both educationally and financially, on the Conway School District specifically and on Arkansas overall? You have 1.5 minutes.
Okay. First of all, there was a big concern when LEARNS passed and where the dollar follows the child, that the public schools would just empty out into the private schools. Our enrollment is still 10,000 like it was last year and the year before, and the projected enrollment is to stay above 10,000. So there wasn't a mass exodus from the school. Private schools only will accept the money that follows the child if they're willing to give up their right to not have the government oversight. And in many cases, the private schools started because they didn't want the government oversight. So even though the money could follow the child, if the private school doesn't want to accept it, there hasn't been a big flood of kids that went that way. So I don't think in the long term, 5 to 7 years, that you're going to see a big exodus from the school system. I think it does kind of bring to the school's attention a little bit, we've got to compete. If there's school choice, we've got to make the Conway schools good enough that people want to choose Conway Public Schools.
Mr. Geyer, you have 2 minutes.
Absolutely. So there's issues in the private school sector. The money follows the child, whether they're homeschooled, whether they're at private school, and there's no accountability of that. The private school doesn't have to offer special ed doesn't have to offer all of that. So there's some major issues there, and they don't have to follow that. The public schools does. We don't know what it looks like going forward, whether it's going to be funded or what. The legislature will deal with that. Across Arkansas, the small schools in the Delta, Guy Perkins, who has already been consolidated, could possibly get consolidated more. The smaller schools are going to suffer more. Yes, it affected Conway schools a little bit. We have a larger budget than most of the smaller schools. The Delta schools, absolutely, it's affecting them.
Mr. Milburn, you have 30 additional seconds.
I think it will take 3 to 5 years to really see the impact. Like I said earlier, we did not see a mass exodus run to the door to get their stuff out of the locker and go to a private school. It just didn't happen. And I think the Conway School District and the board has been financially stable enough over the past several years that they saw it coming, and they're making plans to keep the budget in mind.
All right, that concludes the question portion of this debate, round of the debates. And so now we'll go into the closing statements that are 1 minute, and we will begin with Mr. Geyer.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate everything that's going on in the schools. We've done a wonderful thing as a school board. We're all paddling in the same direction now. This is something that we stabilized, and we're working as a group. We have wonderful people. We've visited with the teachers and administrators. They're wonderful. It's been a distinct honor to be on the school board. I'm Trey Geyer, and I appreciate all that you do. I appreciate your support. I'm running for Zone 5 for re-election. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Geyer. Mr. Milburn, you have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Conway School District was good to me. It prepared me for life. It prepared me to go on to college and get a degree in business administration. It prepared me for a lot of things that I couldn't even see coming down the path. The police department was good to me. And at this point in time in my life, in my retirement years, the school board is somewhere that I can serve and dedicate more time since I am retired. And in all honesty, a big part of my passion, come by the table and look at my 3 great-granddaughters. By the time this 5-year term is over, they will be in the Conway schools. And my heart is with them. And I want to make sure that they have the ability to get a good education that prepares them for life, just like I was prepared.
Thank you. So this includes our 4 rounds of this forum. Pastor Maltby, I'll turn it back over to you. I will remind everyone that, and I'm sure he will as well, that the candidates are here to talk with you. Register to vote. Deadline February 5th. Election day March 5th.
Let's give Mr. Keefe another hand. Did an amazing job. Thank you so very much. Again, I want to thank everybody that is here. So thankful for our school board members, our president, and others that are here, to our county judge, and to all of the pastors that are here, and all of you that sat here patiently in these hard chairs. Thank you so very much. So here's what we're going to do. As soon as I dismiss, you're going to have about 15 minutes to do a speed round to get your snacks and talk to as many people as you can before we leave today. Just bow your heads where you are. Let me pray. Lord and Heavenly Father, we thank you for this forum tonight. We thank you for every candidate, and we thank you for every citizen that came and showed great kindness and respect. We just pray for our community that it will continue to flourish and grow. Lead and guide us and protect us as only you can. In Christ's name we pray. Amen. So visit with one another. You got about a 15-minute speed round. Thank you so very much.